What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new. My name is Rachel, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you all the answers that you've been wanting to have. This is by far the most requested video I've ever had, and honestly I've been putting it off just because I have so much information to tell you guys. I don't want it to last like 3 hours long, so what I've done is I've tried to condense all the research and stuff that I have found down as much as I possibly could. I will include breakdowns of what's in the video at certain timestamps in the description below. So with that being said, I'm going to explain why taking exogenous ketones can be very beneficial for someone who has irritable bowel syndrome or other digestive issues. If you guys haven't seen my other videos, I was dealing with irritable bowel syndrome for 9 years of my life. In May of this year, 2019, it will be 2 years since I've had IBS symptoms, and I'm so freaking grateful and thankful for that. Now with that being said, I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing with you the research that I have found. And even though it has taken symptoms away from me, I can't say that it's technically cured me because this product has not been proven to cure or treat any disease or illness, but it has taken away my symptoms for almost 2 years, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So ketones are really big in not just improving your digestion, but also decreasing your anxiety and decreasing inflammation within the body. So when you have IBS, your digestive system is kind of out of whack, right? There's inflammation, and when you get stressed out or really anxious, you have a flare-up. So what ketones do is help to reduce all of those things from happening in the first place, which will in return prevent the flare-up from ever occurring. So essentially the three biggest ways that taking exogenous ketones help to improve digestion, and in my case especially irritable bowel syndrome, is because it promotes healthy gut bacteria, it reduces inflammation, and it reduces anxiety. So to get started, I'm going to explain what ketones are because I know a ton of you guys keep asking me what they are. So to break it down for you very simply, your body has two fuel sources. So your body has the ability to either run on glucose or it can run on ketones. Now if you look at the standard American diet or even the global diet, you will see that the vast majority of people are sugar burners, and that's because what we eat is very high in carbohydrates. So via insulin, we're getting a fuel source called glucose. And that is what most people are typically familiar with. So then there's also the ketogenic diet, which is kind of the opposite of that, where you are typically consuming 75 to 80% fats, moderate amount of protein, and very low carbohydrates. So in this case, what happens is when your body breaks down that fat, it creates endogenous ketones. And when it does this, it's able to use those ketones for its fuel source. Our bodies make 3 different types of ketone bodies. They make acetoacetate, acetone, and BHB, which is beta-hydroxybutyrate. Beta-hydroxybutyrate, or BHB, is the ketone body that is the first ingredient in the specific exogenous ketones that I personally take. So what's the deal with that? So if you look at our diet, you will notice that we have a lot of increasing lifestyle diseases, which also means that we have, as a whole, a general decline in health. When you were born, you were running on ketones. That is your native fuel source. So what happens is that a ketogenic diet is recommended for a ton of people for a lot of different reasons. It's really good for epilepsy, it's really good for mood disorders, it's good for people with high blood pressure. There's several reasons why someone would want to be on a ketogenic diet as prescribed by their doctor, aside from just being able to burn fat. But what happened is that people were finding that it wasn't as easy for everyone to be able to follow a ketogenic diet as they may have thought. Not everyone is able to follow the ketogenic diet or wants to follow the ketogenic diet, essentially. So now what we're able to do is take a packet of exogenous ketones, which are ketones that are produced outside of the body that you introduce in the body, versus endogenous, which is what your body produces naturally. Mix it with water, and you're able to achieve that same ketosis in 59 minutes versus having to strictly follow the diet and wait days or even weeks to experience that benefit. Now, the exogenous ketones that I take are proven that they are bioidentical to what your body produces naturally. The only difference is they're outside your body going into your body versus being inside your body the whole time. Exogenous ketones are water soluble, so it's not something that you can overdose on. Your body will simply use what it wants to use, and it'll excrete what it doesn't want to use. The ketogenic diet overall is a very anti-inflammatory diet, so it eliminates a lot of the inflammatory foods. So can gluten cause a problem? Yes, but not just gluten, but typically grains overall. So if you're transitioning into a ketogenic diet with a pre-existing digestive disorder, those individuals are typically taken off of grains. Reason being is because grains contain little particles called lectin, which can cause inflammation. So ketones being anti-inflammatory, they're obviously very beneficial for any inflammatory conditions overall to help reduce that inflammation. So what studies have been showing is that BHB, that beta-hydroxybutyrate ketone body that I discussed earlier, can actually encourage the production of healthy microbiome, and actually the bone broth can help do that as well. So just as a little tip, 3 big things that can really help in this situation are intermittent fasting, using ketones or doing the ketogenic diet or both, and drinking bone broth. And what intermittent fasting is essentially a time when you're eating and a time when you're not. So what some of the doctors that work for Privett say is best practice is to wake up in the morning and have your keto cream, and then have 2 servings of ketones throughout the day whenever you're feeling hangry or hungry. The keto cream helps to restore and balance the health of your digestive tract naturally with antimicrobial nutrients and caprolactic fatty acids. The bone broth can actually anti-age you and upgrade your health, and there's science behind that as well. What they're finding with the bone broth is that it can really have a lot of effect on healing your gut. So typically most people who have a gut condition also have leaky gut, which means that the cells in the lining of your gut should be really tight together, but instead they're kind of loosened up, so that way things that aren't really supposed to be in there or flowing through there can kind of pass back and forth in between. So what holds the lining together is called tight junctions, and what they found is that the bone broth can actually help to close those junctions back up and bring the cells back together. So one thing I do want to note is that when someone is initially starting to take ketones, they can notice some digestive issues. So reason for this being is because your body isn't used to running on ketones as a fuel source. It takes a little bit of time for your body to adjust. We've been consuming the standard American diet, which I discussed earlier in this video, that it's very, very high in carbohydrates. It's high in processed food, it's high in processed sugar, it's high in dyes, in artificial sweeteners. So what happens is that it actually changes the pH of your gut. And because we've been following that kind of eating for such a long time, your gut really hasn't had to work that hard in a really long time because it's adapted to that way. Ketones have amazing anti-inflammatory properties. So what happens is that when you put your body back into its native state, when you're using ketones for your energy source, it'll pull all the toxins and water out of those fat cells. And when it does that, you're going to dump all of that right straight into the toilet, or you're going to excrete it through your breath or through the skin. And just an FYI, there are no essential carbohydrates, which means that they're not essential for your body to grow. There are, however, essential fatty acids and amino acids, but there are not any essential carbohydrates. Yet, we've been feeding for the past however many decades on carbohydrates, so when we can start to reduce the carbohydrate intake, we're essentially reducing that inflammation as well. So diarrhea. Okay, if you experience diarrhea, here's kind of the situation and what's happening, and I'll explain why you should look at it as kind of a good thing. So bear with me. So as I mentioned, research shows that ketones are great at reducing inflammation. They help pull water and toxins out of fat cells, so when you're drinking them and you experience that, you can look at it as kind of a great thing. Now hear me out. The reason for this is that your metabolic process is upping. So we know in order to immobilize fat, we have to increase our thermogenesis or increase our body's metabolism, which means you'll be eliminating things a little bit quicker. So on the other side of that, when things start to get slower and you start to see constipation, that just means that your metabolism is slowing down. So typically all constipation is, in general, is just a byproduct of not having enough water and not having enough vegetables. So some things that you can do in order to help with the constipation is to eat more vegetables, particularly the green leafy vegetables. You're going to want to include some healthy fats, so avocados, seeds, nuts, add some protein in there, maybe take an Epsom salt bath. And B vitamins are also really helpful for that as well. So in addition to that, ketones act as a bit of a diuretic. So when you initially start taking them, you're going to lose some minerals. So the thing with this is that most people are magnesium deficient anyways. So what we see is that when people have constipation, it's kind of a red flag to kind of let you know that you are deficient in certain minerals. So when we see this, we can know it's enhancing what is already lost, and it's showing that we may already be deficient. So if you notice that, you just want to add in some electrolytes. I typically recommend everyone start taking electrolytes whenever you're starting to take ketones. And if you want to go even a step further, start adding some magnesium into your daily routine. So typically, the Pruvit doctors will suggest 200 to 400 milligrams of magnesium before bed to help with the constipation. So if you notice this happening, what you want to do is stop taking it in the morning, and also don't take it on an empty stomach. Instead, try to do it mid-morning or kind of mid-afternoon and do a smaller serving. So I always tell everyone, whenever you're starting, to use half of a packet for 4 days at least. But in this case, what I say to do is drop down to a third of a packet or even a fourth of a packet. And then after a few days, you can slowly increase from there. So this is what you guys have to remember, okay? Is that what used to take your bodies days, weeks, sometimes even months to achieve, you are now able to achieve within 59 minutes just from drinking an exogenous form of it. That is insane. It's very, very powerful. Ketones are very, very potent to our bodies, and they're very strong because whenever you drink them and you're able to do that so quickly versus waiting such a long time, it kicks up your ketone levels very quickly. Ketones are really, really great at increasing your metabolic rate. They're really great at reducing inflammation because they pull those toxins and water out of the fat cells. So what happens to your body is that if you haven't ever experienced ketosis or you haven't been doing keto for a very long time, you're not fat adapted yet, what's going to happen is your body's going to be like, okay, let's get all these toxins out, which can initially mean more trips to the bathroom. And if your bowel movements are crampy or painful, simply just slow down. Whenever you take ketones versus running on glucose, it's changing the pH of your body. Just like following the standard American diet that changes the pH of your body, whenever you start following a ketogenic diet or you start taking ketones, that's going to change the pH of your body again. So you guys have to understand how powerful this is and what it's actually doing for you. It's not the same as just like a meal replacement shake or something that your body just adapts to really quickly. This is something that's changing how your body works. So we were born burning fat. That's how you came into this world. And oftentimes when we have the fried foods and the hydrogenated oils, we took out all of the fats in like the 1980s and 1990s, and the diet became really high processed carbohydrates, along with the different colored dyes and artificial sweeteners and ingredients and all the other ingredients that you can't even pronounce. So our body just adapted to that type of eating lifestyle. So when you put your body back into its native fuel source, your body is going to be like, wait, what's happening? So you just have to give it time to adjust back to its original state of being. A big problem that I notice is that oftentimes when people start taking ketones, they often do a huge diet change as well. And what I have to say about that is please don't do that. So it's just a lot for your body to handle at once to do both. So what I would say is that if you're able to do both and you want to do both, do one starting out slow and then slowly work up to adding in the other. Don't just change everything and do it all together at once. You need to take it slow and then just wait for your body to catch up. So when you drink ketones for the first time, a lot of things happen. So globally, about 79% of the population, 79 to 80% of the population is dehydrated. And we know that the major function of our large intestine is to resorb water and get ready for an evacuation. So when we're drinking this high performance energy source of ketones, your bodies are slightly dehydrated already. And we know that ketones pull water and toxins out of fat cells. So what happens is that it can further dehydrate you and cause constipation. So what you need to do, what I tell everyone to do whenever they're starting ketones, is to drink a lot of water. As a rule of thumb, what you want to do is take your body weight, divide that in half, and drink that many ounces of water every single day. So say you weigh 100 pounds. You want to drink 50 ounces of water every single day. You want to make sure that you're drinking the water throughout the day and you're not chugging it, because if you're chugging it, then the water's just going to go right straight through you. If you're drinking it a little throughout the day, you're going to have a better response to it. You just have to remember that everybody is going to respond to things differently. Just because I started not having any issues and taking everything slow doesn't mean that everyone else isn't going to have any issues either whenever they start. So you just have to remember that everyone is different based on their gender, their environment, their health, their body composition. Everyone is different, so of course everyone's going to respond to things differently. So I do just want to add in one little thing about Keto NAT in here, and if you've watched my Keto NAT video then you already know this, but for those of you who haven't and are unfamiliar with Keto NAT is the world's first naturally fermented exogenous ketone supplement. So what we're seeing is that when people are starting to take exogenous ketones and they're drinking the NAT, they're not having the digestive issues that some people were initially having. What we're noticing is that it's even easier for your body's digestive system to adjust to. So if that is the case, you may notice that you may respond better to the Keto NAT formula versus the Keto Max. So I personally always drink Keto Max like 99% of the time, but with the new NAT formulas, I have been drinking those here and there as well. But since I've been already drinking ketones for so long, I haven't noticed anything different digestive-wise. Another nice thing about ketones is that we know that ketones are great at reducing cravings. We also know that carbs are sugar and sugar feeds inflammation. So when your cravings are being curbed for having carbs, you're going to naturally have less inflammation. And also, when you're in ketosis, your blood sugar becomes more stabilized. And in return, you're going to notice the lack of highs and lows in your blood sugar throughout the day. And that alone helps to prevent the cravings for sugar and carbs. There was a study done in 2015 by one of Pruitt's own doctors, Dr. Angela Poff, about beta-hydroxybutyrate, the BHB, and inflammation. And what they found is that beta-hydroxybutyrate, the BHB, actually reduces the inflammatory cascade that happens in the hands or the brain or the gut, the thyroid, etc., etc. And that also just proved we know that sugar feeds inflammation, and we know that BHB inhibits inflammation. So next I want to talk about anxiety. If you guys have been following me, you know that ketones have also greatly reduced my anxiety, which again, I am extremely grateful for, but I want to include the anxiety in this video as well because having anxiety or that stress has a lot to do with irritable bowel syndrome and especially its flare-ups. So we found that ketones actually down-regulate or slow down the excitatory neurotransmitters within the body. So we have inhibitory, which helps our body to protect ourselves. And then we have excitatory, so epinephrine or norepinephrine, also known as fight or flight, which I'm sure you guys are all pretty familiar with. And then we know that GABA is one of those main players. So studies show that ketones actually calm down the nervous system. And what they find is that people who have anxiety often typically have too much excitatory neurotransmitters. Again, when you're giving your body the superior fuel source and not the carbohydrates, it's stimulus because the ketones are reducing that craving process. They're getting more oxygen to your brain, and in return, your body is going to naturally calm down. So we all know that stress enhances anxiety. So when you have a stress response in the body, we create all these little things called free radicals that can cause oxidative damage in the body. So what we found with BHB is that it actually helps your body's response to stress, and it helps to manage that free radical response and to manage that oxidative stress. And for those of you with colitis and who may be wondering, the Pruitt specialists have said that ketones should not trigger your colitis or cause a flare. If you are able to follow the ketogenic diet on top of taking the ketones, that's really when you're going to see the optimal benefit. But if you don't want to or you just can't follow it, I am a perfect example that you can still experience really great results with it just by taking the exogenous ketones. So as you guys know, I do not follow the ketogenic diet. I've never strictly followed the diet. And honestly, the reason for that is just because when I was really dealing with my irritable bowel syndrome, I was so restricted on what I could eat or drink. And now that I don't have to worry about that and I can eat or drink pretty much anything that I want, I don't really want to restrict myself again because I just went 9 years of being super restricted with what I can do. And on top of that, I'm so picky. I am like the pickiest biggest eater ever, so it's kind of like I already don't have a ton of foods that I like, so why would I want to limit that even further if I'm already experiencing a great benefit just by drinking the ketones alone? That's just my personal opinion. I mean, you guys can do whatever you want, whatever works for you. And if you guys are wondering if it's going to affect your ability to absorb the ketones if you're still following your standard diet of whatever you do, no. Regardless of whatever diet you follow, the specialists can prove that you still are going to achieve the benefits of ketosis. And like I said, is it going to be better if you do both? Yes, but even if you don't do both, you're still going to get a great result from it. The doctors will say that the best way to do it is to take it on an empty stomach. That way your body isn't having to compete for any certain fuel source. So it doesn't have a ton of glucose and a ton of ketones in your body. It just is able to focus on the ketones if that's all that's really in there. But if you can't take it on an empty stomach, then try to take it with a meal that is higher in fat so that you're able to have better absorption with it. And if you do take your ketones with carbohydrates, all that's going to happen is that your body is just going to move into a dual fuel state, and it's just going to use a little bit of both. Whatever one it really wants to use at the time, it will. And like I said, ketones are water soluble, so whatever your body can't or doesn't want to use, you will just simply excrete it. You're not going to overdose or ever take too many of them. So what I personally did is whenever I started drinking ketones, my first 10-day experience, it actually lasted me 20 days. And the reason being is because for those 10 days, I took a half a packet every single time. I never went up to a full packet until I was past those first 20 days because I had digestive issues and I didn't want to experience any of that. So I just took it really, really slow and I never experienced anything. I've had my symptoms go away since I started taking it. I never had to deal with any of this, and I think it's because I took it really, really slow. Don't sit down and try to drink the full packet at one time. Like, that's not how it works, and it's not going to end well. You have to take your time and be patient with it. I don't have the bloat, I don't have the gurgliness, I don't have the flare-ups, I don't have the pain, I don't have things that I had to deal with before, and I've made several videos on those things as well if you guys want to see that. But I'm just telling you guys these things because if I can find something that gives me my life back, literally gives me my life back, because I don't have to be so controlled by what IBS wants me to do, this is a gift that I want to share with someone else who may be able to experience the same good result that I got. So I know that was super long. I had my camera shut off I think like 3 or 4 times when I was making this video. I'll be leaving some of the journal article links down below of places I got certain information. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know it was super long awaited, but I hope it was everything that you guys wanted to know and I didn't miss anything. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos and supporting me. I really, really appreciate it. If you're not already subscribed, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos that I make. If there's anything specific that you guys want me to touch on about ketones specifically, then let me know in the comments down below, or you can shoot me an email. Thank you again for watching, guys, and as always, I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.